Hello, you're watching ITU Telecom TV. I'm Martin Warwick and I'm talking with Dr. Hamadoun Touré, who is the Secretary General of the ITU. Dr. Touré, always a pleasure to see you. Glad to see you again today. We're here in Cairo at ITU Telecom Africa, and one of the set themes of the event is ICTs in Africa, a continent on the move. I think given what's happened over the past few years, we could also add to that, and in a hurry. Is it?
Well, the continent is in move indeed. The continent is moving and moving in the right direction. That's very important. We've seen the growth in the mobile sector over the past 10 years, which has been phenomenal. We've seen the number of new operators operating on the continent, which has been second to none. And that's why from 2002 to now, the number of subscribers in telecommunications, telephone, both fixed and mobile phone, has been multiplied by 10. This could not be predicted by anybody just 5 years ago. Therefore, there is a real good synergy that is going on now. And of course, the reasons for that are many, but the most important one is a very sound regulatory environment that is on the continent today.
Why do you think this then is happening now? In the past, we've had false dawns for Africa. There's been a Cinderella continent where something's going to happen and it never quite has. What has happened now to bring about the change that is taking place?
Well, I think the World Summit on Information Society was one of the key triggers. We need a commitment, and commitment at the top. The African leaders attended the World Summit on Information Society, both in Geneva in 2003 and in Tunis in 2005. And they committed themselves. They understand that the development of their countries go through a sound ICT infrastructure and ICT services. You will not have education without e-education, health without e-health, agriculture without e-agriculture, government without e-government, business without e-business. The E part is a tool for everyone. If we have to meet the Millennium Development Goals by 2015, as set by the Millennium Conference, we need to be sure that we meet those goals in the ICT field, not in 2015, but much earlier, in 2012. And I was pleased that the African ministers last year in Kigali, when I organized the Connect Africa Summit, they have committed themselves actually voluntarily to move this date ahead. It's a great challenge, but I believe it's a challenge that is doable. And the results today that we see are a real proof that indeed it can be done.
You talked about having a stable regulatory environment, and that's becoming a fact. What about the political environment? When people come to Africa from outside, industrialists, they want to invest here in the confidence that they're going to be able to be here and to work properly for a long time. Do you think Africa is now ready for that?
Well, when investors are looking for to do business in any place in the world, they are looking at a number of factors. One is stability. Two is regulatory environment and policy. But three, they want predictability. If they are investing on long term, they need to be sure that the people they are talking to are the same and the laws are not changing overnight. And you've seen large countries like Nigeria or Egypt, where we are today. The head of independent regulatory authority has been the same for the past 5 or 8 years. And they have been both consistent in applying the rules that have been set by another body, the ministry. So there has been a separation between the policy-making body and the regulatory making, which is the regulator is just a referee among the players. And the independence of that regulatory authority vis-a-vis the players that they are referring, that they are managing in the game, their independence is very important. And they have demonstrated that you wouldn't have had the growth that we had today without that sound regulatory environment. Therefore, the predictability and the stability have been very key issues, and they are there in the African continent today. Of course, the commitment, as I mentioned, was the first criteria. So I would say all the ingredients are there together for a chain reaction. A chain reaction on the continent starting with ICT, where everyone can contribute on equal footing. There's no continent, country, nation, or race that has monopoly over knowledge. That's one thing that African countries can start now contributing, and especially we're coming from the information society and entering the knowledge society, where the difference between the people is the difference of the power of their brains. And that difference, that power, is the same everywhere. The important thing in developing countries where people are struggling for survival on a daily basis, if you give them the right capacity building, the right training, let's say in software development is about finding solutions. It's like life-saving solution that those people are doing naturally every day. And therefore, if you train them in software development, they will be very innovative. And that's why you've seen also on the African continent, the operators that have came in with very many new, very innovative solutions that have been conceived in Africa, developed in Africa, and implemented. Take the M-banking, for instance.
And we can talk about this. I don't know whether you think it's true or not. It may be a hang back to colonial days. Maybe it's just something that's come about through structural things in the West. I don't know. But throughout the time I've been in this industry, what people have talked about is alleviating poverty in Africa, which seems to be playing on negatives, whereas what you should really be looking at is about the creation of wealth, the creation of jobs, and building the continent, the countries through that. Do you think that's now happening? What's changing?
Well, you see, when people were referring to those negative concepts, I always refrain from even commenting, because I don't want to paint a negative picture of a continent, and necessarily. You cannot just label a whole continent with one sign. It's not fair. And second, you've seen that when people 10 years ago were comparing the number of phones in whole of Africa with New York, today Africa has more telephones than the whole North America combined in 10 years. There are positive signs happening. There are governments that are stable. There are leaders who are dreaming for the continent. You have good leaders and bad leaders everywhere in the world. We have very good leaders in Africa too, and they are dreaming, and they dare. I always say they dare to dream for the continent and dream big. And the key issue is to make sure that those dreams are converted into reality. And there are some people behind who will try to implement them. And this is happening in the information and communication technology field. We have a partnership model here. Governments, with their role in regulation and capacity building, the private sector and banking industry, funding and putting the infrastructure together, and international organizations like ITU, who are helping them set the policy and helping government design together capacity building programs, predicting with the governments the services and applications that will be coming 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and starting working on the curriculums so that people are trained. And when the services and applications come, the timing is perfect. And what the overall target here is job creation, as opposed to that concept of poverty alleviation. I always say, you want to alleviate my poverty, you don't want to eliminate it. That's not what we want. In fact, we've gone away from that concept. Our approach to development is wealth creation. And job creation is about wealth creation. People are working, they are getting paid, and they're proud of themselves and not being assisted. In the ICT field, we need no charity. We need true partnership where everybody is a winner and everybody will make profit. And we want to live in a society where making profit is not labeled as a crime, as committing a crime. It is not. When investors can make profit, they will reinvest that profit and do more profits. and that's the law of business. So the ITU is unique in that sense. You will be surprised by my comments as a United Nations body, but ITU is unique in that sense that we have 191 member states, but we also have 700 private companies that are working hand in hand in the ITU for over 143 years.
You and I met several times in the past, and we've actually talked several times again since you've been Secretary General of the ITU. Do you think in the time you've been in post now you've put a stamp, a different stamp, on the organisation?
Well, I'm the first Secretary General who came straight from private sector into the ITU. And I always believe in the fact that private sector and governments are not one against another. I've worked in both sides, therefore I know that they can be complementary. So I'm bringing that touch that will bring everybody with confidence together. That's very important. My role is just as the role of a catalyst in the process. But as any catalyst is important, it's small, but it's important. But I have also, I know that our mandate is very large. It's a very big mandate. And I've narrowed down my objective to 3. One is bridging the digital divide, helping the world to communicate, ensuring that we get the Millennium Development Goals achieved by ensuring that there is a telephone or internet connection and access in every village, every school, every university, every hospital by 2015. That's one thing. Second, very important issue, very high on my agenda, is cybersecurity, as we're giving internet to our kids at school and in the safety of their bedrooms. They need to be in a safe environment. As our businesses are now being more e-business oriented, we need to be sure that they are safe. As our governments are working on the net, they need to be safe and protected. We need to go beyond that. We need to be sure that our hospitals, a patient can be easily killed, by someone very far away, by just entering a patient's database before a surgery and changes a plus in a minus and have his own doctor kill him. That's how fragile the world can be. Now we need to make it safe. We need to ensure that beyond all this, we avoid cyber wars. And since my election, I've been talking about that. Some people were laughing that last year, Estonia's network was attacked to the point they were shut down for 48 hours. That's unacceptable. We want to make sure that states will not be harboring terrorists on the net. And what is required for that? We need an international framework. And that's one perspective that I'm bringing. I'm trying to put together an international framework where every country has a national cybersecurity agency, where those agents are trained properly to the same level everywhere, and those agencies are connected among each other so that they can work together to ensure that a criminal does not perpetrate his crime somewhere else. But above all, we need to make sure that nations have cyber laws. What is a crime in one country may not be a crime in another country. We need to make sure that those cyber laws are also harmonized. And that international framework, only an organization like ITU can bring it, because in the overall process, private sector has a role to play, because they are the networks, they are the service providers. Therefore, we need to work with them hand in hand. But while saying all this, we're saying creation of information, access to information, sharing of information are basic human rights. And we need to make sure that while we are trying to keep it safe, we have to make sure that we are not also invading their privacy, and that we are also protecting them. We are ensuring that security is not used as a way to cut off citizens from information. The third element in my strategy is restoring communication in case of natural disasters. Emergency communications is very important. After the last disasters we've seen in the world, after all the problems of climate change that we've seen, I believe that information and communication technology can play a major role. After tsunami, we are realizing how large the extent of damages can be. After Hurricane Katrina, we've seen that no country is immune from natural disasters and no country is well prepared enough. And therefore we need an international coalition and a global preparedness where we can help restore communications, when we can help, communication can help save lives. And of course, ICT is where the International Telecommunication Union is contributing in the overall climate change debate, even though the ICT sector is only 2.5 to 3.1% part of the problem of in climate change or on greenhouse gas emissions. But we are probably over 85 to 90% part of the solution. And therefore, we've got a role to play there. Through ICT, we can have video conferences that will save travels. Through ICT, we can economize energy. We're using also in our own industry many new standards to help first standardize batteries, power supplies, to use more chips that are more energy efficient across the industry. Therefore, we have a lot to contribute into the climate change debate, and that's very high on my agenda.
Dr. Hamadoun Touré, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.